In a world of endless noise and chatter, the judicious practice of silence is an underrated art form embraced by Stoic philosophers. But what if staying silent is more than just a virtue? What if it's actually the highest form of contempt one can wield? And could purposeful quiet be the key to resilience and wisdom, even in the darkest moments of pain and adversity? Brace yourself, for by the end of this exploration into the counterintuitive power of restraint in speech, your perspective may never be the same. If you're ready to unlock the secrets of those who listen more than they speak, don't go anywhere. Number 1. Silence causes confusion for the opponent. Have you ever found yourself in a heated argument or tense negotiation, grasping for the right words to sway your opponent, only to realize that silence might just be your most powerful weapon? The ancient Stoics understood this paradoxical truth, that in withholding speech, one can command control and advantage. Can you recall a time when your own judicious silence left someone befuddled and forced to make assumptions about your intentions? A chess match where your opponent is relentlessly attacking with pawns and minor pieces. Rather than reflexively counter with your own frenzied moves, you simply pause, lean back, and study the board intently without a word. Your stillness alone plants seeds of doubt in your adversary's mind. Are they missing something? Have they blundered into a trap? The silence hangs thick with implications unseen. This was the genius of the Armenian leaders in their conflict with Azerbaijan. By refusing to articulate their precise positions and red lines, they bred dangerous confusion. Azerbaijan found itself forced to speculate, inevitably misjudging Armenian resolve until it was too late. A powerful mind makes opportunity, as that titan of Stoicism Seneca taught. What seemingly inaction can, with patience and judgment, transform into openings for the wise. The old metaphor of being an unmovable rock, impassively enduring the crashing waves until they exhaust themselves. This is the instinctive Stoic poise of silence. For in those moments of pregnant quiet, we temporarily release the reins of fate. We create a vacuum into which our opponents, grasping for control, pour their own insecurities, fears, and desperation to act. And in their overreaching, gaps and opportunities appear like a flash of lightning across a dark sky. Embrace the power of holding your tongue, of listening more than speaking, as Epictetus instructed. Let the other side fill the silence with their own unsteady conjectures. Whether in the arena of business deals or geopolitical brinkmanship, you just may find that sweetest of Stoic paradoxes, that in stillness persuasion takes root and resolve is forged. Are you prepared to master this powerful art of silence? Number 2. Eliminate distractions. Can you recall a time when the noise and commotion of the world seemed utterly deafening? When the incessant chatter of traffic, television, and technology overwhelms your senses to the point of distraction? If so, you've experienced firsthand the potent lure of mindless noise that the ancient Stoics cautioned against. How can one hope to cultivate reason, prudence, and a life of profound principles while consumed by the sheer volume of external stimuli? For a moment, what would it feel like to experience blessed silence, to let the crashing waves of sound and fury part before you, leaving you upright on an island of perfect tranquility? This is the rarefied state that the great Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius prized, declaring, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." When we eliminate distraction through purposeful silence, we reclaim sovereignty over our inner selves. The Stoics had myriad practices to help attain this sanctum of stillness. Some would embark on long, silent walks amidst nature's rejuvenating calm. others embraced gardening as a meditative art, allowing the wordless language of plants and soil to reset their minds. The most ascetic descended into the womb-like silence of dark rooms for pure, uninterrupted contemplation. But perhaps the most accessible avenue is the ancient discipline of meditation itself. Can you feel the warmth of morning sunlight playing across your face as you sit in hushed reverence? With each gradual inhalation and exhalation, the turbulence subsides until all that remains is the solitary flicker of consciousness itself. As the Stoic Gaius Rufus taught, there can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without silence. So embrace the intermittent gift of quietude, whether in a quiet corner at home or office, a secluded walking trail, or even the familiar comfort of your own bathtub. Let the world's clangorous noise recede like outgoing surf, leaving only the eternal melody of your own bonded thoughts and heartbeat. Number 3. Silence attracts attention. In a world of endless noise and chatter, the quiet presence of one who exercises restraint in speech can command a room with an almost magnetic force. This may seem counterintuitive, but the ancient Stoics understood that cultivating the judicious use of silence was an art form unto itself, one that could draw all eyes and focus your way when employed with skill. Legendary Roman Senator Cato the Younger, standing amid the raucous intrigues of the Senate like an unmovable peak amid a churning sea. While others postured and debated with unbridled tongues, Cato remained steadfast in his reserve, speaking only with great intentionality when the moment demanded it. Can you sense the hush that may have fallen over the chamber when at last he parted those stately lips? The weight and gravity of his words, tempered by prudent silence, would have landed like a titan's footsteps. For in mastering the stillness of pause and quiet composure, one marshals an almost preternatural command over their environment. Like a skilled performer leaving pregnant pauses to heighten anticipation, each spoken utterance takes on amplified importance and gravitas. This is the purest expression of what the Stoic Musonius Rufus praised as, "He who does not lose his child mind," an innate acceptance of simplicity and restraint as the pinnacle of wisdom. You bear witness to this principle even in the corporate world today. Marketing mavens like Samuel Adams have long embraced the power of silence to attract attention. Imagine the hush that falls over a crowded product expo as the house lights dim and the audience is granted only silence. The silence that stretches deliciously for seconds feels like an eternity, allowing the mind to shift into hyper-focused anticipation of what tantalizing new brew may be unveiled. So, embrace the power of holding your tongue, of confident repose amidst the mindless circular fires of chatter and hearsay. For in those spellbinding moments of quietude, you may well find every eye irresistibly drawn towards the eye of your personal storm. Are you prepared to command such gravity through the elegant art of silence? Number 4. Silence builds strength. Have you ever marveled at those rare individuals who seem to exude an unwavering inner strength and self-possession, regardless of the storms that may rage around them, as if they draw power and clarity from some inscrutable wellspring buried deep within? The ancient Stoics had a name for this potent source, the power of introspective silence. Imagine for a moment stripping away the endless cavalcade of external noise, responsibility and distraction that so often leaves the mind feeling frazzled. Picture yourself finally ensconced in an island of perfect tranquility, able to turn your awareness inward through purposeful silence. This is the womb in which the Stoics taught one could cultivate their most invaluable capacities for reason, resolve, and right action. For it is only in these hallowed moments of quiet, removed from the world's incessant chatter, that we can truly listen to that inviolable still voice within, the unwavering set of values and principles that tethers us through adversity's gales. As that paragon of Stoicism, Epictetus, instructed his students, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak. For speech untethered from conscientious self-examination is but so much senseless wind." This was the wisdom that drove history's most indomitable visionaries and leaders to zealously guard periods of uninterrupted silence and solitude amid their world-shaping labors. Can you picture Steve Jobs wandering alone on a contemplative retreat, confronting each crucial fork in Apple's journey from the solitary fortress of his own judgment? Or the 16th US President Abraham Lincoln, enveloped in silence on the very eve of delivering his generation's most iconic words at Gettysburg? For it is only in sustained silence that we strip away pride, cant, and fear, the toxins that leach fortitude from even the most well-intentioned souls. And in facing our unvarnished selves, infinite wellsprings of resilience and conviction flow forth once more. Number 5. Freedom from pride or arrogance. Being captivated by someone whose mere presence exudes a grounded humility and quiet self-assurance. Is a person secure enough to let their deeds and character speak far louder than any boastful words? If so, you've witnessed the timeless virtue of modesty of speech that the ancient Stoics revered as the bedrock of integrity. The Stoics understood that those most prone to excessive loquacity and grandiose self-promotion are often overcompensating for fragilities buried deeper within. As the philosopher Zeno taught, the emerging of pride stands for the soul's basest condition. It is those unwhole people, deeply insecure yet oblivious to their own shortcomings, who so casually indulge in egoistic posturing and bravado. In contrast, the wise embrace an economics of speech, guided by sagacious restraint. Through this prudent silence and circumscribed expression, they starve the insidious tendrils of arrogance, vanity, and hubris before they can take root and corrupt their conduct. As Seneca reminds us, true glory consists in doing what deserves to be written, in writing what deserves to be read. No figure exemplified this ethos more powerfully than the 20th century's iconic architect of non-violent resistance, Mohandas Gandhi. Can you envision his unassuming presence, clad in a simple dhoti, hunched studiously over handmade notes, as he maps out another campaign of mass civil disobedience? There were no grandiose speeches or chest-beating affirmations of ego, as are so often the self-indulgent norm today. Embrace the unflinching path of modesty in speech and deed. For in our present age of endless bluster and virtuous self-proclamation, those who walk humbly in reasoned dignity cannot be ignored. Let your integrity be your iconic edifice your resume, leaving all pretense and puffery to waft away with the inconsequential winds of ego. As Marcus Aurelius asked, how many have laid good disciplinarians aside and turned to the lives of drifters? Number 6. Silence aids in negotiations. Picture the scene. Terse words have already been traded, positions forcefully staked out. But rather than impulsively escalating the rhetoric, you settle deeper into your chair, hands steepled, and regard your counterpart with a serene, expectant gaze. The silence hangs palpably, droning like a taut tightrope wire, and in that alchemic pause, you've already begun accruing advantage. For one of two outcomes must now emerge from this void you've created. Either your opposite withstands the silence as well, both sides silently assessing the other's resolve in a like-minded cessation of hostilities. Or more likely, they succumb to the irresistible compulsion to fill the emptiness with probing gambits or concessionary fragments, revealing clues about their true intentions, insecurities, or shifting foothold that you are cat-like, can catalogue and wield. This subtle art is what the ancient Stoics revered as crucial to any masterful negotiator's repertoire. Not stumbling over words shows self-mastery and serenity, as Musonius Rufus tutored. For in overindulgent torrents of language, one's position becomes rigid, ego inflexibly invested, and paths towards compromise inadvertently calcified. Contrast this with the dexterous ministrations of diplomatic legends like President Jimmy Carter during the 1978 Camp David Accords. Over 13 rigorous days of tense talks between Israeli and Egyptian delegations, he would strategically punctuate the proceedings with long bouts of purposeful, uninterrupted silence. In these hallowed respites, foreign ministers and heads of state alike were allowed spacing to reflect intensely, re-evaluating entrenched positions and discovering new avenues forward. Embrace the power of silence in your next high-stakes engagement. Like the swordmaster who duels as much with timing and tactical footwork as with clanging steel, leverage the negative spaces between words as dynamically as the words themselves. Whether negotiating a retail contract, rapper-level peace treaty, you may find silence is indeed the ultimate high ground, a way to equilibrate your mindset, loosen your opponent's tongue, and remain endlessly adaptable. As Blaise Pascal reflected, all the unhappiness of men arises from one single fact, that they cannot stay quietly in their own chamber. Number 7. Kind and considerate regard for other. Have you ever been in the presence of someone who seems to genuinely listen with their entire being, who lets silence settle around them like a cloak as they take in your words and perspective without hurry or agenda? If so, you've experienced a rare gift, the considerate art of restraining one's own voice to create space for deeply understanding another. This was a core tenet of the ancient Stoic philosophers, the idea that to be truly virtuous, one must exercise judicious silence in order to receive the views of others openly and without preemptive judgment. As that paragon of Stoicism, Epictetus instructed, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we say." The Stoics rightly recognized that it is through creating rifts of respectful quiet that we allow authentic empathy and regard to take root. Picture this: you are distraught, weighing a difficult personal dilemma or profound existential question. Rather than frantically formulating a stream of advice or meriting the validity of your plight, your companion simply holds their tongue. They make no immediate moves to interrupt the cadence of your thoughts and feelings as they spill forth. Instead, they become a receptive vessel into which you can pour out your deepest vulnerabilities without fear of being summarily judged, dismissed, or drowned out. In this way, a silence born of authentic consideration institutes a sacred space of trust, one in which the shared goal transcends any individualistic need to project, posture, or solve. The other person understands their role is not to instruct or reorient, but simply to be present without ego or agenda, clouding the moment's intimate humanity. So embrace the underrated power of remaining quiet more than you speak, as Epictetus advised, for in doing so you honor both yourself and your conversant with the ultimate respect, the affirmation that your sole purpose is to understand rather than be understood. And in that blessed decision to listen without preconceptions, you may find a connection blossoming where previously there were only walls. Number 8. the art of deep listening. Can you recall a time when you felt absolutely heard and understood on a profound level, when the mere presence of the person across from you created a sort of energizing hush, as if the entire universe had briefly stilled to make way for your voice alone to resonate? If so, you've experienced the consecrated art of deep listening that the ancient Stoics revered. The Stoics knew that in order to continually evolve as seekers of truth and wisdom, one had to embrace a posture of silence, reverting to the openness of a beginner's mind anew with each encounter. As that illustrious philosopher king Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose very presence constitutes revelation and truth." It was his clarity that true upliftment and insight flows not from those who merely make a show of dispensing knowledge, but from those who cultivate the fertile void of silence within which all knowledge can take root. Yourself having an audience with one who has entirely mastered this receptive state of rapt, non-judgmental listening. There are no hurried rebuttals or verbal formulations being marshaled, simply an oasis of warm, affirming quietude, in which your perspectives and experiences are granted extraordinary breadth to blossom into their fullest consecrated expression. Can you feel the sense of being seen and unobstructed in that manner, reverberating into the very marrow of your bones like a tuning fork? Embrace the hard silences that awaken you to the depth of your own sagacity and that of all people and elements around you. Let your next contribution to any discourse grow not from the amnesiac haste of reaction, but from the sanctifying breath of whole absorption. Number 9. The art of reflective wisdom. Have you ever noticed how the most profound truths and realizations tend to arise not in the clamorous midst of activity, but in moments of intentional quietude? As if the depths of wisdom can only really surface and take a shape through the hallowed alchemy of reflective silence. The ancient Stoics grasped this reality intimately, enshrining periods of uninterrupted quiet contemplation as utterly vital to cultivating reason, judgment, and righteous perspectives. The Stoics understood that in the absence of intermittent retreats into hushed introspection, even the most clear-headed person inevitably becomes unmoored by the ceaseless buffeting of passions, prejudices, and second-hand distortions that so saturate our daily discourse. As that legendary Stoic Seneca taught, the greatest blessing is a wealth of suffering bravely enduring, which breeds true detachment and wisdom. It is only by periodically removing ourselves from the turbulent currents of the external world that we can sort substantive truth from transient noise. Allow yourself to imagine this scenario. You're tasked with delivering words that must impart profundity, capable of ringing through the ages, distilling unvarnished truths about the human condition. Where would you go to arrive at such clarity of perspective untainted by improvisational rhetoric or ephemeral biases? The answer, quite likely, would be to withdraw into a space of profound silence and focused inward reflection. This was precisely the approach taken by historical orators and leaders whose words have reverberated like thunder peals across centuries. Can you envision the 16th American President Abraham Lincoln in the lonely hours before delivering his seminal Gettysburg Address? Hunched in solitude, privately rehearsing and refining each line through numberless silent recitations, burning away all superfluous pretense until only an intensely purified moral philosophy remained. Embrace the infinite wellspring of insight and conviction that can only flow forth from thoughtful immersion in silence. Schedule sanctuaries of repose and recharge into your rhythms, even if just brief reprieves from devices and distractions. As the Delphic maxim instructs, know thyself. Number 10. Resilience in adversity. A job loss, betrayal, or devastating diagnosis that feels like the earth has abruptly dropped out from beneath your feet. In those suffocating moments of shock and anguish, when panic threatens to utterly unravel you, the ancient Stoics would calmly counsel, revert to silence. For the Stoics understood that in navigating adversity's stormiest headwinds, our first and most vital need is to anchor ourselves in unshakable inner stillness and self-possession. As the venerable Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius instructed, when jarred unavoidably by circumstances, revert at once to yourself and don't dejectedly dwell on another's misconduct. For it is only by turning inward, stripping away external narratives, that we reclaim the steadying truth of our own unassailable values and perseverance. You've just received news that a loved one's cancer has catastrophically returned and spread. As the mind predictably spirals into grief and terrorized what-ifs, visions of harrowing treatments and mortality saturating every pore, you force yourself to pause, to exhale fully, and to retreat into shielding, purposeful silence. In this sanctuary, the externalities of grim prognoses and delirious worrying dissolve away, if only for a few priceless moments. Here you can remember the cherished memories and unbreakable bonds that considerably transcend fleeting corporeal forms. The oath of compassion and gratitude that shall remain unvanquished, even by death itself. By boring into this space of anchoring quiet, you draw upon unseen wells of fortitude, the uncrushable essence of your spirit that has weathered untold storms before. When you feel the tides of calamity inexorably rising, revert to the underrated power of silence without dejection. Recalibrate your bearings not through the frenzied gabbling of fear, but through a grounding pause that accesses your core tenets, the abiding anchors that shall ultimately transcend any temporal adversity, no matter how formidable. As Viktor Frankl would later echo, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. We have explored the profound teachings of the ancient Stoics on the power of purposeful silence. While to some it may seem counterintuitive, we have seen how measured restraint of speech can be a formidable force, focusing attention, building fortitude, and commanding respect. Let judicious quiet be your strategic arsenal in all areas of life. And when adversity storms inevitably arise, revert inward to that bedrock of resilient stillness that the Stoics revered. If this message resonates, I invite you to share your contemplations in the comments below and join me in further walking the path of wisdom through silence.